The Western Pacific chapter of the Design Build Institute of America presents a discussion on, has the cost of participating in best value selection processes made your business model unsustainable? This program was originally recorded on March 20th, 2012 at the Hotel Biltmore in Los Angeles. This recording will be divided into two parts. The first part will describe the problem and the various participants' take on this problem. The second part will describe some potential ideas that the participants have in hope of stimulating a national discussion on recommending new industry-wide best practices to be adopted by the practitioners and owners in participating in a best value selection process. And I tried to put your proposal up here as succinctly and easily as I could. Okay. Why don't you outline what you have?
All right. This, of course, is just one of many scenarios that might address the problems that the industry and the owners have. What I'm suggesting is essentially a three-stage process. The first stage is a request for qualifications. The second stage is interviews with concepts. And the third stage is the proposal preparation stage. Step one, you're all very familiar with. It's the usual thing of name your team, the design team, principal engineers, principal design build subcontractors, and so forth. From that list, owner would select 5 teams. Those 5 teams would be invited to prepare an interview with concepts. This would be a 2-week effort. It would offer a token honorarium just to save face more than anything else, and perhaps agree to pay for out-of-town travel costs for those consultants that have to come in from out of town. Be a 2-hour interview. The design team then would present their concepts to the owner. These would be diagrammatic site analysis. It would be a hand-drawn floor plan, elevations, and a few hand-drawn architectural sketches. No BIM, no computer models, no physical models, no professional renderings. It would be just those sort of things that architects need to talk to owners with. Now, I think we all know what that is. From that process, and if the owner selection team and the user group participate actively in those interviews, then what comes out of it is the best 2 designs are selected to proceed further. No formal commitment to the design, no formal commitment to price, just talk about price range. The owner expects that the final design would at least have some vestige of that initial concept, but obviously contractually we can't hold you to it. Then, with only 2 competitors, offer the unsuccessful competitor an honorarium that is equal to a full schematic design fee that would have been paid to the AE team under a traditional process. For that, the owner gets essentially certainly an architectural schematic design, gets an outline specification of engineering systems, gets a guaranteed price, a guaranteed schedule, and a guarantee of performance. If a design build proposal like that can't save an owner at least 1%, then they shouldn't be in the design build business. That 1% honorarium, which is essentially equal to what a normal schematic design fee would be. And I think for talking purposes, we should talk about 1% of construction cost as the honorarium to the unsuccessful proposer. If you want to go to 3, then you have to have 2% for honorarium to be split among the 2 unsuccessful proposers. But if the designers are in the room, please watch very carefully what we've done here. We've inserted a design competition in the middle of a design build competition. If a design builder wants to get from step 1 to step 3, it's got to go through you. In other words, you have to have some design excellence, or you won't even get to show the owner how clever you are in your engineering systems, how cost-effective you are in your pricing, how quick you are on your schedule. You have to have the design for it. Certainly in building design, I know that once the owners know that the schedule can be met, the budget can be met, nothing else matters except the design. Design is everything. Even though the criteria has a whole bunch of other things, they make it work the way they want. It's human nature. When you go and buy that new Mercedes, you may talk about horsepower, you may talk about trade-in value or what it costs, but once you've got past that point, it's the beauty of the object itself that you're essentially making your final decision on. The same is true with buildings. Design rules. In engineering projects, it may be the engineering concept that rules, but certainly design is foremost. And I don't think in our past procedures we've ever let an opportunity for an owner to sort of have a first pass at design. What this does for the participants is that at least conceptually, the design is right. You're not going down a dead end, as some people have suggested. Some of the design schemes were absolutely wrong and didn't find out until the last minute. This allows you to know that your design was certainly one of the 2 best out of 5. So you're feeling a little bit safe to proceed to develop it even further. The owner has participated actively, hopefully, in this process, so you have an opportunity to get some feedback. The next step then is followed with proprietary meetings, additional proprietary meetings, requiring that those who will eventually score the project have to sit in on each one of those meetings. It doesn't do any good to have people who are not involved in the selection process give you advice when in fact the people who are actually writing down the scores might have a different idea. So it requires the owner of his selection team to put them to work. And of course the final stage would be, as we're all familiar with, the usual proposal, presentation, evaluation, scoring, and final selection. I think cutting the number of participants to 2 of course, gives you a better chance of winning. So in the long run, hopefully, if you're as good as the best, you will get half of all your design-build proposals. Some may complain, well, there's not enough competition. Competition is not a factor of the number of competitors, it's the quality of the competitors. And when you know your competitor has a design that it might be better than yours, or certainly is equal to yours, and was better than those 3 guys that didn't get there. So you know you've got some pressure. You probably know exactly who they are. You know they're the best of the best. That's the competitive pressure you need, and that's, I think, the quality of the competition, not necessarily the number, is what's important here. There are some other factors that would respond to this. The documentation needed to submit a proposal should be limited to, in case of a building, certainly architectural floor plans, elevations, maybe 1 or 2 3-dimensional renderings, but not a BIM model, not a detailed engineering studies. If it's based on a performance specification, you simply ask the design builder what level of improvement, say in sustainability or energy efficiency, will you offer. You don't have to prove it to me that you can do it with calculation. That comes later. You just, in your offer, not only do you give me your price, you give me your energy efficiency, water consumption, things of that nature. So you are bidding not just with price, but you're bidding with performance. How much over the owner's initial criteria for performance will you improve the project? It could go into acoustics, it could go in, as I said, into energy and utilization of water and other materials. So that allows the design builder to do what they think they can do best. What it does, it eliminates that spare proposal that owners always had. There's always the threat that one of these 3 is not going to have any idea what we're about. It's going to have the wrong design concept, and we don't want them to do a de facto selection for us. But you've eliminated that through that middle step of the design competition in the middle, so that you know the 2 that go forward, at least conceptually, are on the right track. So you don't need that 3rd spare proposal that you need in the traditional, I call it traditional design build selection process. It does require more money on the part of the owner to pay those honorarium. It does require more work on their part to participate in those 5 two-hour interviews with concepts. It requires that you have a qualified juror that can understand cutting-edge design and knows how to translate that and to communicate that back to the selection panel. You should not do this without help, because when you're looking at things that are that conceptual and that sketchy, probably the lay building user is not prepared to really interpret what those squiggly little lines mean in the long run. So I advise all of you to get a good architect, or in the case of a building, or an engineer in the case of an engineering project, to sort of be your advisor or advocate in the evaluation process. My first design build project, I convinced Philip Johnson to be an advisor to the jury. And we selected a building that eventually won a National AIA Design Award. And it was $25 a square foot. 1982 it was finished. Still pretty good.
Let me ask you a question regarding this methodology, though. How do you see the construction side being inputted into the system here? Because one of the biggest problems that we constantly see is the lack of interaction, and so I'm concerned that in this process I'm not seeing where the construction guys.
Well, remember, the interview with concept is the design builders forum. Now, we would think that the designers would play a large part in that, but how he uses that 2 hours, whether it's a design that responds to schedule or construction efficiency or whatever, it's your 2 hours to use as you see fit. But you've got to come across with a concept of some sort. So it depends on what the urgency of the project is. If it's speed, if it's budget, if it's beauty, you respond accordingly. So if it takes construction ingenuity, and on some civil projects I can see how that may be a big factor, is how you interact with the ongoing traffic and so forth. That's part of your concept. And so that's the 2 hours you have to give it your best shot. That concept essentially is part of the design.
And Ed, this is where I see the true design builder really shining as opposed to the contractor playing design builder. Dave, do you have any comment on that?
No, absolutely. I think that the design builder here is going to have to, kind of we talked about before, right? The 1+1 is going to be something greater. You're really going to have to lead a design build team. You're going to have to manage the design and all the aspects of the project and bring out the best from the team so you can bring out the best in the proposal. I think this is a great format, and I would certainly opportunity for certainly the basis for something to talk about and propose to the industry. I think it's a great step forward.
From a standpoint of what DBIA in Washington is looking at, is they believe that once the private sector starts heating up again, that the public sector projects will be left back without as much participation so that's why they're trying to help public sector projects look for best practices. And that's what our outcome from this is going to try to be, is a white paper with a series of best practices for the best value procurement process. We started on this in 2000. We got about a third of the way through that, and then DBA got sidetracked for a couple of years. And now it's time again to get back and get forward and go forward with this.